Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the picture of Dorian Gray and some passages from chapter 19 and chapter 13. I'm also going to be comparing um, these passages to a poem that I found called Father William by Lewis Carroll. I'm going to be talking about the way Lord Henry influences Dorian and how this poem is kind of similar to their relationship. So the poem goes, "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right?" And my youth Father William replied to his son, "I feared it would injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. You turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that?" "And my youth," said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box, allow me to sell you a couple." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than sweet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life." "You are old," said the youth, "and one would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, that you balanced a nail on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?" "I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough," said his father. "Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you down the stairs." So this poem was kind of similar to their relationship because it shows Dorian as the kid who's like kind of seeking advice from his father, who in the case of the book would be Lord Henry. It shows that the child is like really interested in what youth is and why there's so many limitations in age, and the father kind of goes on to say that um, there are so many things that he's done and like how it's like been affected in his age, but how he still like has all these things because of the way he lived his life as a child. But the child still doesn't like take this advice from him and kind of misunderstands it, with the same way that Dorian misunderstands um, Lord Henry's advice when he tells him, you know, take advantage of your youth and it's the most exquisite age, and don't, indulge, not indulge, but don't like think about the sins of your life too much. Like, don't think that over. But the the stanza that really stood out to me was the one where he talks about his the ointment he used. It goes, "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple." Kind of reminded me of the way that Lord Henry sells his advice to Dorian, and how Dorian kind of takes it like as if like, oh, I need to stay young forever. Um, Dorian takes his advice for most of the book, but by the end, he pretty much like tells him that he doesn't really believe it anymore, and he doesn't think that he's what Lord Henry wanted him to be, even though he pretty much is exactly what Lord Henry wanted him to be. And in chapter 13 on page 150, he's talking to Basil about why he like Lord Henry gave him such good advice. He says, "One day you introduced me to a friend of yours who explained to me the wonder of youth, and you finished a portrait of me that revealed to me the wonder of beauty. In a mad moment that even now I don't know whether I regret it or not, I made a wish. Perhaps you would call it a prayer." He's talking about how he kept his youth by making a prayer or a wish, and that kept him, looking so young for so long. But by the end of the book, he kind of realizes, like, I've kind of ruined, like, this idea, and that Lord Henry wanted me to be, and I don't, he doesn't feel very good about it. On page 206, Lord Henry's trying to convince Dorian that what he's doing isn't wrong, and he says, "The tragedy of old age is not that one is old, but that one is young. I am amazed sometimes at my own sincerity. Ah, Dorian, how happy you are! What an exquisite life you have had! You have drunk deeply of everything. You have crushed the grapes against your palate. Nothing has been hidden from you, and all it has been to you more the sound of music. It has not marred you. You are still the same." And then Dorian says, "I am not the same, Harry." And he says, "Yes, you are. I wonder what the rest of your life will be. Don't spoil it by renunciations." So again, he's telling him, like, keep living your life so exquisitely, and don't spoil it with things that like other people would worry about, like being sinful. On the next page, Dorian goes on to say, "Yes, life has been exquisite," he murmured, "but I am not going to have the same life, Harry, and you must not say these extravagant things to me. You don't know everything about me. I think that if you did, even you would turn from me. You laugh, don't laugh." So basically, Dorian kind of realizes, like I said, like he's taken everything out of proportion. And the poem that I showed you kind of really reminds me of it because Father William is talking, telling him, giving him all this advice, and then Dorian blows it out of proportion.